This is the intro. Let's just rip the plaster off and get the obvious joke out of the way. I love men. That is the only time you will hear me make a joke about the film's title like that. I promise you. I am a big fan of horror films. Took me a little while to get into it, but I can firmly say I'm a big fan now. But in particular, I've been continually fascinated and impressed by the catalogue of independent horror films that look to push the boundaries of typical genre in a unique and exciting way. Despite some of the memes, I feel A24 is a prime example of the sorts of horror films that truly excite and invigorate me nowadays, taking huge thematic and cinematic risks. Among those horror films, Alex Garland's Men stuck out to me as a film that looked profoundly uncomfortable and deliciously disturbing. For those who don't know, Alex Garland is a filmmaker and writer. He considers himself to be more of a writer than a filmmaker. He's best well known for directing Ex Machina and Annihilation, but if I'm not mistaken, he also wrote many films with Danny Boyle, such as 28 Days Later, and I think he wrote Sunshine too. I'll double check that. When the trailer dropped for Men, I was instantly intrigued, and it seemed like an excellent preview of the type of experience you would expect from a film like this. It showed off all of this strange and extremely obtuse imagery that bordered on the uncanny. The trailer certainly conforms to the standards set by most films from A24, that it would be making creative and narrative risks in the effort to create a truly memorable experience. It was well edited without giving away too many significant plot twists or important scenes, instead relying on your curiosity over dissecting the meaning behind its weirdness and asking questions about it. Why are there so many Rory Kinnears? What's up with them apples? Would my mum enjoy this? For the record, I don't know your mum, so I can't answer that question. However, all the other speculation and intrigue is what got me so excited to see this film. After missing the opportunity to see it at the cinema, I finally managed to watch it in the comfort of my own home. Or rather, my home was comfortable until I saw this. Right, no need to beat around the bush here. You've seen the title of the video. I think the film is fucking brilliant. I found it to be a compelling, exciting, and horrifying piece of work that ticked all the right boxes for me in terms of what I wanted from it, while still leaving plenty of different things for me to unpack post-viewing. However, judging by the reception and the general reaction towards this film, I'm starting to wonder whether maybe I'm the only person that seems to like this film. Aren't I so special and unique? I'm the only one that likes a thing. Gross exaggeration, of course. But I was actually delighted to see that YMS really enjoyed this film. That was a pleasant surprise. So before I start talking about why exactly I love this film, before I start talking about why I enjoyed this film so much, I did think it would be worth perhaps exploring the discourse that surrounds this film. For the most part, critical reception for the film has been fairly positive. Plenty of critics seem to agree that the film is inventive and suitably grotesque, but perhaps isn't as highbrow as it thinks it is. However, there are plenty of critics, and as such a sizable portion of audience members, who all feel that the film is ridiculous, shallow, and, quite simply, not very good. If you scan the aggravated scores on sites such as IMDb and Letterboxd, the film averages around a 6 out of 10 or a 2.9 stars, which is probably not too bad on a glance. But then you dive into the audience reviews and there are some absolute crackers. Now, I'm absolutely generalising here because at the end of the day, a whole group of audience members, who cares what they think? It's all down to the individual and their own experience. However, I think it's interesting that a lot of people seem to pick up on the same critiques. A lot of people don't think the film holds much substance in regards to its commentary, and that the last 30 minutes are just confusing and disgusting and sort of ruin the film. Additionally, a common criticism that I've seen being thrown around is that people are sort of chalking up the whole themes of the film as just men bad. Now, these kind of complaints have long been one of the most frustrating things for me to hear when it comes to analysis of art. It is one of the easiest and laziest ways to criticise something, in my opinion. It very much reminds me of how people try to surmise The Last of Us Part 2 as just revenge bad. Something that I feel expresses an unwillingness to dig deeper than the surface and explore what I felt was a very powerfully sensitive character study and an emotionally complex story. Shout out to Donkey, by the way, for his videos on The Last of Us Part 2. They were great videos, and it was just generally quite nice to see that during the whole hubbub surrounding the release of that game. So now Men seems to have suffered a similar fate, where it's just being dismissed in the shallowest of ways possible. A part of this could also be because of the A24 name attached to it. I mean, A24 have a unique, but oftentimes divisive reputation. Perhaps there were certain expectations that weren't met, or perhaps there were more negative expectations that were met. There's also a lot of butthurt men who just don't like what the film's insinuating and just don't like the whole commentary on male behaviour. And then, of course, there are people with genuinely insightful and reasonable criticism of the film too. And regardless of all criticisms, some of which I think are totally valid, I feel that those who are so quick to dismiss the film as just men bad are missing out on some of the film's more intriguing and sensitive aspects. I think the idea that the film is only vilifying men misses out on every other theme that the film is trying to present and explore. The male gender might be the centre point of the film's commentary and horror. I mean, the title is a very unsubtle wink wink nod nod that feels more like screaming and pissing yourself. But to simply chalk it up as one thing just doesn't seem fair to me. I could dwell on the criticism as much as I want, and then we get into a whole debate about what constitutes a good film, people's enjoyment of a film, can you like this, can you like that, but that's not what I want to do here. What I really want to talk about is the experience that I had during this film. Men is perhaps one of the best shot horror films I think I've ever seen. It's certainly up there with Midsommar when it comes to capturing the seemingly innocent and oftentimes beautiful landscapes of the outdoors as something to be inherently fearful of. There's some incredible use of colour in this film, and that creates this unnatural and mythical quality to it, as well as some great use of depth of field to muddy the visuals into a glow of green that engulfs the protagonist in this overwhelming way. The music also emphasises the unnatural atmosphere the film has, with some remarkable use of vocals and choirs to create this foreboding tone that appropriately adds to the film's gradual build and surrealism. Men's greatest strength is how it indulges itself in its absurdist moments. I love the way the film introduces Rory Kinnear as Jeffrey before drip-feeding in the other people he plays. It eventually gets to the point where Jessie Buckley is just overwhelmed by the sheer volume of identical faces, but it's never addressed by the characters on screen. It's just sort of accepted as reality. This creates a brilliantly off-kilter tone that unnerves us, as we can clearly see how uncanny and wrong this situation is, while our protagonist simply exists in a limbo state, clearly afraid, but not certain what of. Without going into spoilers, the film's final act becomes a surrealistic nightmare, fueled by some of the most horrifying and brilliantly macabre use of body horror that I think I've ever seen in a film. It reaches almost cosmic levels of disgust in the most convincing way possible, wonderfully combining the practical effects with CGI in the smoothest ways I've ever seen. It's all such a brilliantly twisted affair, utilising all the best aspects of traditional horror in a unique and exciting way. I mean, it plays on your psyche and never looks to treat the audience as an idiot and to simply explain itself away. Even beyond the film's technical expertise, I feel it handles its themes and ideas in a really smart and interesting manner. As corny as the title is, and it is corny, let's be honest, I think the film manages to do a great job at personifying the most unfortunate aspects of men in a frightening and disturbing way that perfectly expresses how these kind of men are viewed. They become monsters birthing monsters. From the macro levels of aggression and predatory behaviours against women, to smaller manipulative and microaggressive ways of undermining them. The ever-brilliant Jessie Buckley manages to further emphasise this through her reactions and emotionally diverse palette. She helps hammer home the ideas surrounding women being subjected to and fighting against the will of oppressive men, while also brilliantly showing how trauma lingers with you, like a wound that never fades away. It becomes a harrowing experience that subjects you to a deeply unsettling feeling of being cut off from reality, from sensibility, from security. It's just surrounded by danger that lurks and follows you in the shadows. It does such a good job at capturing a specific kind of uncertainty and fear of the unknown. It all ramps up and explodes in a mesmerising and terrifying manner, before suddenly fizzling almost into this understated and quiet conclusion. A conclusion that left me in a state of complete bewilderment, awe, exhaustion, much like the protagonist, Harper. So those are my thoughts on Men. Alex Garland's Men, not Men in general. Let's not jump down that rabbit hole. It was always going to be a divisive film that will stir up some strong reactions within people. Oftentimes, those are the best kinds of films. I mean, the worst thing would be just to feel nothing, to just not have any sort of expression, whether positive or negative. I mean, if you felt nothing from Men, then, I mean, how? How did you not feel nothing? I mean, in all seriousness, I'm not here to try and argue that people are wrong for disliking the film. If you didn't gel with it, then you're entitled to that, and that's fair enough. There's plenty of films that I don't like that other people really like. But I would certainly encourage people to explore and discuss and dig deeper with films such as Men, and not just dismiss them in as simple a manner as they can. It's fun to sit back and switch off, sure. But for every Marvel blockbuster you sit down with, just try cozying up with the twisted social commentary and grief-stricken horror of a film like Men. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'm hoping to try and create more short form content on this channel and talk more about films and to help kind of keep a more consistent creative output. It's a good way for me to keep busy, to keep creative. I'll still make short films such as Bad Dog, which you can check out on my channel. It's a fun one. I've been getting lots of nice words for that. Whatever you thought about Men, please let me know in the comments. I would certainly encourage people to give this film a go. Even if it's not your cup of tea, you'll be glad you watched it, probably. If you like this video, consider subscribing. This is the weird bit. I've never had to do this bit before. But if you did like this, click the thumbs up, subscribe, all that good stuff. That's the end.